Welcome back. It's another Creaky Bloody Gammas battle report. Let's get on with it.
Okay, welcome to round 3 of Belcon. So we had a defeat at the hands of Chaos. So 16-4 win, 4-16 loss, and now we've got a civil war versus the Orcs and Goblins. So it's an old school Orcs and Goblins list, a giant, some archers with a level 4 in the woods in skirmish formation, and then a couple of units of Black Orcs. I think there's like about 2 units of 12 there, a couple of bolt throwers, a boar chariot, and then a big unit of boar boys with the BSBs in there with the war banner. I think he's got the red raggedy banner as well, so there's a lot of combat resolution in those boar boys. In this scenario was the one where if you roll a 1, the unit doesn't turn up. The only unit that didn't turn up was his war boss on the Wyvern with the Talisman of Protection and the Ogre Blade, exactly the same kit as the Great Keef. There's the Great Keef out on this flank, so we've got to be careful. On turn 2, his Wyvern's going to come on. There's the Black Orcs, some Night Gobbos. There's Jared Widteeth for level 4. There's my War Machine battery. And I finally put the Araboys in some dangerous terrain. So they're in the duck pond there. So that's the deployment. So diagonal deployment. But I have to be careful because his war boss is going to come on turn 2, anywhere along his home edge. So he's either going to come and support his army here or sneak around the back. So I could be in a bit of trouble when he comes on. We'll see what happens. So we do the roll-off, and the Orcs of the Great Keef will be going first. So let's see if I can keep the Araboys alive this game.
Let's go. Turn 1.
So, Arcane Urgency, the Great Keef up on the flank. They're there. And a couple of wounds there from the Araboys, so they've done more in this game than they have in any other game. And that's it. Your go. Your turn 1.
Miscast. Turn 1. So the rules for you.
So yeah, hooray for the Araboys. They actually shot something and they did a couple of wounds to the Black Orcs there. So they've done a couple of wounds this game, which is more than they've done in the last 2 games. So I'm worried that his war boys are just going to come and kill them. So we'll see what happens there. I do have the Night Goblins here. Araboys, little short bow guys are there. So maybe they can protect them a bit. The chariots have rushed up, and the Great Keef has zoomed up that flank with Arcane Urgency. And then he's turned a bit. So I probably marched him up and then zoomed him up with the level 4's Arcane Urgency. So we've got to pounce now before his war boss arrives on the table in turn 2. We'll see what happens. Alright, so in the Orc turn they shuffled around here in panic mode because he's got his level 4 Shaman in a unit of skirmishing Orc archers, Orc Araboys there. So they've tried to hide behind the forest, and then his level 4 threw out a pillar of fire. The Black Orcs sort of shuffled around a little bit. His chariot redeployed in that direction, and his giant is hiding behind the woods as well from the Great Keef. So he's sort of scattered and turned to face the Great Keef's threat on that flank. I decided to be a bit more aggressive with him this game. And then, to my surprise, the Boar Boys just stayed there. They didn't... they changed... I think they changed their ranks a bit, expanded their frontage, but they pretty much sat there. So I wasn't sure what he was thinking there. I would have just gone straight for it with the Boar Boys because I didn't have anything to really counter on that flank, except maybe a couple of fanatics maybe, but that's it. And the bolt throwers did a bit of shooting. So that's the situation. So put out a pillar of fire here, which is going to be a bit of a bummer for me later on, I think. And he's sort of hidden everything behind the forest there to wait for his general to turn up on his own Wyvern. And the Black Orcs have shuffled forward a bit. So that's pretty much it. The chariots are about to cop some pillars of fire. I think his bolt throwers missed my chariot as well. So we go into turn 2.
Turn 2.
So we move into turn 2, and he didn't give me any charges with the Great Keef, so I found a little spot there for him to jump over the woods, and now he's threatening his back lines there, so either he's going to have to commit his own wyvern here to try and stop me, but I'm going to start getting into his back lines here, threatening the boar boys, threatening his bolt throwers, etc. So I'm just trying to be more aggressive within this game, while his wyvern's off the table at least, bullying his army. And I found a spot there out of charge arcs, so I can cause some havoc behind his lines. A couple of boar boys went down. I think I dropped a doom diver on them, so the doom divers did a little bit of damage. And then his black orcs are going to be outflanked here and outmaneuvered by the wyvern. So the boar boys, they're in a big long line there. I don't know if they're going to come forward, but the Great Keef is on their flank now, so they have to maybe move up in behind the hill so I can't charge them, turn to face him or do something. Anyway, that's a threat he'll have to deal with. The pillar of fire, he moved up, did a bit of damage to my chariot, so I just moved back because I need to be aware that his general, war boss, is going to come on somewhere along this flank here if I'm not careful. So I couldn't really advance with everything, but the Great Keef's quick enough to get away if he has to. And I'm just sort of threatening his Black Orcs with my chariot. He does have, I think, one of those banners, one of the Warg banner or something, so those Black Orcs there can charge a little bit extra. Instead of the standard 10, I think they can go up to 13. So hedging around there with the chariots, waiting for his war boss to come. Alright, so turn 2, he's lost a couple of Black Orcs there, and he's level 4 with the Arab boys is going to probably move into the woods to get some safety. And the boar boys are going to shuffle forward here so they don't offer a flank to the Great Keef. And I think I bombed one of the bolt throwers, one of his bolt throwers. The pillar of fire did a bit of damage to my chariots there. Yeah, so you said there's one bolt thrower missing on the hill, so I think I dropped a doom diver on him because I was worried about them turning around and shooting at the Great Keef or something. So I got a bit lucky there, got a couple of hits with doom divers, I think. And then the boys here, and there's my attempting target is my war machine sitting at the back. So whether he's going to turn his attention there or come and support the boar boys, what they're going to do. And my Arab boys are finally doing something and whittling down those Black Orcs in front of them. So that's nice for a change instead of them running off the table in terror in round 1 and 2. So he moves the boar boys up. So he moved them up to get cover from the hill, so I couldn't charge them in the flank. These Black Orcs here are shuffling around, taking casualties from the Arab boys. And he's shaman in the woods there with his level 4 and the Arab boys. And there's his war boss out on that flank. So he decided to come on over here. He's placed him there, then he's going to march on. So I'm going to have to turn these guys around to try and at least threaten him. He's pretty fast. He's going to get stuck into my war machines, and that was his plan, I think. And his bolt thrower is going to try and shoot my chariot, which is threatening. My chariots are threatening, but his pillar of fire is doing a bit of damage to the other one. So a bit of a standoff here. We'll see what happens into round 3.
Turn 3.
Okay, so we're into turn 3, and my chariot decides to go impetuous and charge into those Black Orcs there. They flee 8 inches out the back, and I fail to catch them. So that chariot is going to get counter-punched by the boar boys, I think. His pillar of fire is doing a lot of work, and here his war boss is threatening my war machines. So I've had to turn the Black Orcs around. And I lost a couple of Black Orcs to a pillar of fire, and I lost a few night goblins here to the pillar of fire as well. It went back, it went through them, and then it went back through them again the next turn. So his pillar of fire has done quite a lot of work. So there's my chariot. He's in a bit of trouble there. The chariot charged those guys. They got away, and the boar boys are primed to charge my chariot. The Great Keef took care of the last bolt thrower on the hill. Very brave of him, picking on little goblin bolt throwers. But he's done a fair bit of work this game because he's threatened a lot and got rid of the bolt throwers. So he's happy with his work this game. A little bit more aggressive, and he wants to get stuck into the ball boys there, but there's a lot of combat resolution. So his wyvern, his war boss, has marched up the flank here, threatening the war machines. I've had to turn everybody around, and I've thrown my own pillar of fire out here in front of the war machines that maybe he'll deter him from going after the war machines, because he would just go bang, bang, bang through them all, probably. Take him the rest of the game, but fair few points sitting there. So we're tempting him with the night goblins as well. I do have my boss this time. Usually my little night goblin boss, I've been sticking him out of a unit so I could use the ruby ring of ruin, but I forced myself this time to put him in the unit. So in my next list, I won't give him the ruby ring. I'll just give him the Wallopers one-hit wonder and put him in that unit because he's quite handy in that unit. Just a once-off, they can do a little bit of damage. So tempting targets there. And then his turn, I threw out the fanatics. And the pillar of fire moved off in that direction. But he's going to have to run the gauntlet of all those fanatics if he wants to hang around in this area. So that's the plan, to maybe lure him in. Which way is he going to go? He's got to, either after the war machine, he'll cop a fanatic. And then over here, or at least the fanatics here as well, they're going to go through the ball boys. And his Black Orcs there are working out if they're going to charge that chariot. So I'm probably going to flee with that chariot. Maybe I'll hold. I'll hold with the chariot so I can at least get those fanatics. Will go through the ball boys. Start working on them. My Arrow boys are still firing away from in the duck pond. And there's the situation. So big long unit of ball boys. Yeah, there's the mighty Arrow boys in the duck pond there doing a bit of work. So he does come into the night goblins in his turn. And I challenge with Wallopers one-hit wonder. And I do a couple of wounds. And the fanatics do a couple of wounds as well. So after the combat, we have a wounded wyvern, and there's a few less ball boys there. So the fanatics and my shooting did a bit of work on the ball boys, and my little night goblin archers are in a bit of trouble because he's still got a boss in there and so on. And the Great Keef's threatening. Those guys rallied and so on. These Black Orcs that fled. And this combat here.
Turn 4.
Alright, so this is turn 4, which will be the final turn. So a bit of a shock. I didn't think at this point that we would only get through 4 turns, but he's only got a few of the ball boys left. My little mighty night goblin archers are working on them now. My chariot's going to go into his skirmishing archers, and his wyvern comes in to my little guys here. But after this turn, he's going to win that combat, and the night goblins are going to actually break. And so that's the end of those night goblins. So he'll kill them. It's not going to cause panic because they're all orcs all around them, so that's okay. But Wallopers one-hit wonder did a few wounds, etc. So after the combat, he ends up on the hill. He passes his test to reform, and he's in a commanding position on the hill. But I do have all the war machines then fire at him, and spoiler alert there, his wyvern does die. So his war boss goes down to the shots and the magic, etc. from here. So he's just repositioning after he passes his test there. But he's only got about 3 wounds left, and I just fire everything I can at him. And I think one of the bolt throwers actually does the final 2 wounds. So that was good. A bolt thrower finally hit and did something. As I said, my chariot's going to go into his skirmishing Arrow boys here and just tie them up for a couple of turns. The archers here and that fanatic are going to make short work of most of the ball boys, but he'll still have some of them left alive. The Great Keef charges the Black Orcs on the hill. His giant's still alive. He hasn't done anything. He's been running around in circles behind the tree there. The mighty Arrow boys survived the game, so that was their plan, just to survive. He's only got a couple of ball boys left in the end. And the Great Keef's pointing here. So we only played 4 turns. We ran out of time. Mainly because my opponent was fairly... had lots of rules questions. Like he thought his wyvern had armoured hide, but he didn't. We had to look it up. Had to look a lot of things up. And the Great Keef's poised here to go into the rear of his Araboys on turn 5, but we didn't get turn 5. So we're finishing... I'm lamenting that we're only finishing on turn 4. But it's going to be a narrow victory to the forces of the Great Keef, mainly because his war boss went down. I think it ends up about a 12-8 or 11-9 victory or something. So a narrow victory to the Great Keef. Those fanatics are now doing a bit of work on my own guys. So there's my losses in the corner. So that's the final situation. So my chariot went into there just to tie up those Araboys with his level 4 there. Risking the terrain. He's surviving on 1 wound, but he just had to hold. And then on turn 5, the Great Keef was going to come into their rear and get rid of them. And these boar boys were just about dead. Only a couple of them left, I think. Maybe the standard bearer is the only thing left there, even though they've killed a few of my little night goblin Araboys. So the writing was on the wall. It would have been a bit more of a victory if we'd played another couple of turns, but as I said, my opponent wasn't sure on a lot of the rules, so we had to keep looking things up. And anyway, it was a good game, and we will march on into round 4 versus the forces of Bretonia on table 2. So stay tuned for the next battle. So a narrow victory in the Orc Civil War to the Great Keef. Bye for now.
Thanks for watching another Creaker Gamers episode. I hope it wasn't too bad. Please like and subscribe. Just do it.